Good afternoon. Welcome to Beavercreek Rotary. I'm your host and president, Stephen Brown. Thank you guys for coming. I'd like to thank our greeters, Mike Canada and Bob Choi, Eric Marcus for being our ticket master, and of course, Mike Zwick, Pete Bales, and Mark Weinstein for our great programs. I'd like to invite Denny Jarvie up for the invocation.
Well, good afternoon. Would you please join me? Holy Creator, let me awake and see the beauty that surrounds me all around. Let me hear the singing birds that make their wonderful sound. Let me thank God for my health and for all that has been good to me so far. Let all my dreams come true when wishing upon a star. Let me be thankful for the friendship that was so lovingly given to me. And let me forget the caring that was made for me to see. Amen.
Thank you very much. David Cusack, Secretary's report.
So Teresa has a guest.
My husband JR.
JR, welcome back.
Has a guest.
I have my wife Amanda.
Hello.
We have a visiting Rotarian from Fairborn, Tom Kugler.
Hello, Tom.
And then so thus far, our attendance is at 55.2.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. Sergeant at Arms, Dot Adams. Can we get one clap, guys?
It was underwhelming last week. That was easy. Before I get started, if you have an opportunity and you talk to Pete Bales, ask him what we did yesterday. It was an amazing experience. We got to fly in a KC-135 and watch them refuel airplanes. That was really fun. Today's April 22nd. It's also National Day of Silence. So that's it.
Yeah.
And it's Earth Day, National Jelly Bean Day, and National Girl Scout Leaders Day. And for those of you interested in dessert, tomorrow is National Cherry Cheesecake Day. A couple things are happening around the area this weekend, and it's really good to see these things come back. The Sugar Maple Festival in Brook is going on all weekend, started today. Celebrate the Trails Saturday. It starts at the Xenia Station. I guess you go through several trails in Greene County. And then we have Soar into Spring here in Beavercreek at Lufino Park. You go out there and you get a free kite from the Green Optimus Club. Some news today, this morning, a group of people are gathering in Los Angeles along the freeway to break ground for a $30 million bridge over the freeway for animals. They said there will be signs telling them where to go across the bridge. If you're flying on an airplane and you've been drinking, don't talk to Mike Tyson. And then Philadelphia voted to lift their mask date, their indoor mask date, one day after they put it in effect. Just can't make up their minds anymore. Netflix is going to clamp down on password sharing. So if you've got kids out there or family sharing it, they'll probably start charging for that. Also, if you're interested in an iconic prop from The Shining, the lightweight axe with the rubber head is going up for auction, and they're expected to get $100,000 out of it. The metal one that they used to go through the door went for over $220,000. Today in history, in 1864, the Coinage Act was passed. that says you have to put "In God We Trust" on all coins made in the United States. In 1876, the first official National League baseball game was played with the Boston Red Caps beat the Philadelphia Athletics. And in 1889, the Oklahoma land rush began. In 1906, new rules put umpires in sole charge of all games. Oh, I'm sorry, all game balls. So, in 1945, Hitler admitted defeat. In 1952, the first live broadcast of a nuclear test in Nevada was shown. I guess it was on television. I didn't have a television then. In 1966, the Atlanta Braves won their first game as the Atlanta Braves. They'd been the Milwaukee Braves and the Boston Braves before that. In 1970, the first Earth Day was held. And a couple of things of note here in the club. We have a birthday that was on the 21st. That's Paul Otten. I don't think he's here today. And we have a couple of anniversaries in the club. Beth Kuzak, this is year number 11. And Tiffany Hunter, year number 2. And a couple of wedding anniversaries out there. Todd Figgins, number 6. And Ed and Fran O'Shaughnessy, number 55 today. Wow. Congratulations. As I usually do, I've got some interesting laws from around the country that I want to share with you. In San Francisco, it's illegal to store your own stuff in your own garage. They passed a law that says you can only store a car. Cats and dogs are not allowed to have sex without a permit in Ventura County. And also in Ventura County, old women must hide their faces in the vicinity of virgins. The penalty for this is 5 years in prison. I say there's some strange laws up there. And in Los Angeles, it's illegal to rob bird nests from a public cemetery. But if you're robbing a bank and you shoot a teller with a water gun, that's just totally prohibited. You can't do that. It's illegal to set a mousetrap without a hunting license. A law created in 1925 makes it illegal to wiggle while dancing. In Texas, there's an old law that states you are unable to tuck your boots in one, or tuck your pants in one boot unless you own 10 or more cattle. It's illegal for the blind to go hunting, or I'm sorry, it is legal for the blind to go hunting as long as they have someone sighted to go with them. A person found intoxicated must be given a large dose of castor oil by a local doctor, and failure to gulp it down will result in a fine. And there's a law that says it's illegal to go to church in a disguise. In Texarkana, owners of horses may not ride them at night without taillights. In Temple, Texas, no one may ride a horse and buggy through the town square, but you can ride your horse into a saloon. And in Corpus Christi, it's illegal to raise alligators in your home. A few interesting facts that you can use at parties, or you can just disregard, whichever is best for you. Alfred Hitchcock was frightened of eggs. He had a phobia about eggs. Squirrels are behind most power outages in the United States. Spider webs were used as bandages in ancient times. And for a lot of you in here, this might be really important. You are more likely to get a computer virus from a religious site than a porn site. You get 3 times more viruses from a religious site than you do from porn sites. The inventor of the Pringles can is now buried in one. When he died at age 89, this is funny, his children stopped at Walgreens on the way to the funeral home to buy his burial Pringles can. They did have one decision to make though. What flavor? But they said, we just need to use the original. Sunglasses were originally designed by Chinese judges to hide their facial expressions in court. And cotton candy was invented by a dentist. He called it fairy floss. Children of identical twins are genetically siblings, not cousins. And the Goodyear blimp is the official bird of Redondo Beach, California. If you were to get in your car and drive into space, it would only take 1 hour to reach it. That's purely theoretical, but it's fun to think about. A cornflake in the shape of Illinois sold on eBay for $1,350. And a cloud can weigh more than 1 million pounds. While doing research for today, I discovered that in the Canary Islands, there are no canaries. And by the same token, in the Virgin Islands, you guessed it, no canaries. In Washington State, there's a town called Walla Walla. If you're curious where that is, it's right between Ting Tang and Bing Bang. A clear conscience is usually the sign of a bad memory. Light travels faster than sound. That is why some people appear bright until they open their mouth. You have two parts of the brain, left and right. On the left side, there's nothing right. Or on the right side, there's nothing left. Every novel is a mystery novel if you don't finish it. Instagram is just Twitter for people who go outside. Worrying works. More than 90% of the things I've worried about never happened. You know the difference between a northern fairy tale and a southern fairy tale? In the north, it says once upon a time. In the south, it says you ain't gonna believe this shit. I just let my mind wander and it didn't come back. Some of these you may have to think about now. A pig stands in front of an electric socket. Oh no, Porky, who put you in that wall? You may get that later. I say no to alcohol, but it doesn't listen. I find it ironic that the colors red, white, and blue stand for freedom until they're flashing in your rearview mirror. Women should not have children after 35. 35 children's enough. Always remember you're unique, just like everybody else. I put more effort into naming my first Wi-Fi than I did in naming my first child. A bank is a place that will lend you money if you can prove you don't need it. If you can't convince them, confuse them. And Vicks is just a spicy Vaseline. I went to the liquor store last Friday afternoon on my bicycle. I thought it'd be safer that way to buy some bourbon and put it in the basket of the bike. As I was about to leave, I realized that I might drop that bourbon if the bike fell over. So I drank the whole bottle. And I'm really glad I did because I fell over 7 times on the way home. Couple of inspirational thoughts for the day. I have 2. Even the smallest changes to your daily routine can create incredible ripple effects that expand your vision of what is possible. And Brian, you might like this one. 3 minutes with the wrong musicians can feel like an eternity. Yet 3 hours with the right ones feels like a mere moment. It's all about chemistry. Today's fines. If you've been to an Atlanta Braves baseball game, that's $1. If you wiggle when you dance, that's $1. If you've ever taken castor oil when inebriated, that's $1. If your computer has received malware from a religious site, that's $1. If you saw the movie The Shining, that's $1. If you're not wearing your Royer pin, that's also $1. Stephen, happy bucks.
Thank you very much. All right, happy bucks. Who's happy?
I'll go ahead and say I'm happy that the three court federal judges have dictated that August 2nd will be the primary for the state rep, state senate, state central committee. That the maps, that the commission has one more shot at a map May 28th. And if they don't, they're going to dictate that the third map be adopted as the map. Of course, it'll be a one-year map, and we'll need to go through all this one again next year. So what I am happy that it looks like there's light at the end.
All right. I was trying to figure out where you were going to be happy in that. So. Anyone else? It's beautiful out.
Yes, we're happy. 55 years for it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Any advice for a single guy?
Be flexible.
Be flexible. I just started going to the gym, so that's convenient.
Happy marriage, a lot of work.
Yeah. Anyone else? Brandon.
I'm happy I couldn't get enough of Eric Marcus here on the board. So I got him on another board with me so I can get 2 times.
Wow.
So thank you to Eric for helping me out on the.
All right.
You already hit me up before.
Shannon, my go-to guy's not here. What's that? Yeah. Anyone else? Oh, yeah.
Well, happy to say that after a 2-week process to get my roof done with weather delays and whatnot, the big dumpster finally got out of the way of my garage, and I'll be able to park there again, except that while they were there, I decided I wanted some other things done. So while I'm happy that's leaving, I'm unhappy that the new dumpster's coming.
All right, perfect. Let's pick the winning numbers here. 0239. 0239. All right, Bob. Just a reminder, half our proceeds goes to our annual Christmas fest. All right, hot roast, perfect. Just a couple of quick announcements. Not this weekend, next weekend is Dave Fleming's service. So just a reminder. And then prior to that is Rotary's Day of Service. So I think the last time I talked to Beth, we had about 40 volunteers. So if you've not signed up, please do. Invite your family as well. So it's from 8 to 12. There's 3 locations. We'll be doing gardening out in Dayton, and then one of them is sound the alarm. So we'll be working with Red Cross on installing smoke detectors in houses. So if you're available to help out, we'd love to see you. Beavercreek Rotary is doing the lunch. So we went ahead and donated that. So we'd love to see you guys out there. I'm looking forward to it. 100% attendance. If you've not gone online, please make sure you are putting in your, if you missed a day and then you had a makeup, please put that in. We're getting ready for Founders Day here coming up quickly. And then also Founders Day, make sure you register for that as well, so we know how many people we're gonna have. We got some pretty cool entertainment coming, so I won't make that announcement, but it's gonna be a great day. So. And lastly, I'd like to invite Bob Kachoy up here real quick. Bob has received a Paul Fellow Harris pin. It's got 2 gems on it, so that means this is his 3rd time donating $1,000 to the Rotary Foundation. So thank you very much. All right, We got a great speaker today. I'm going to invite Fairborn Rotarian.
Thank you, Stephen. It's always good to visit this Rotary. Don, I may have to, I think Robin indicated that she may want to put some of those jokes in the archives. Back shelf, bottom. Anyway, today's speaker, Robin Heiss, is one of my special people that works for the county. She usually comes once a year. She couldn't make it this year. She hurt her ankle, and always has some great stories for us that come out of the archives. When I became a county commissioner, the archives were kept in an old building across from the bank there on Main Street. Had big timbers and metal rods holding up the walls of the two-story building because it was ready to fall down. The archives of the boxes were up in an attic with pigeons and varmints and everything else that was up there. And her predecessor and herself, they proceeded we found a new place for them. They moved all that out. They've been cleaning that up for years. And that building was then eventually torn down before it fell down. So she's done a great job. Robin, excuse me, Robin has a BA in anthropology and a BA in psychology from The Ohio State University. She has an MA in higher education and student affairs from The Ohio State University, an MA in public history from Wright State University. And Robin has worked at the Greene County Records Center and Archives since November 2011 and was promoted to Records Manager in Archives in January 2015. The Greene County Archives has received the National Association of Government Archives and Records Administrators Program Excellent Award. Also, the Ohio Historical Records Advisory Board's Achievement Award and the Society for Ohio Archives Merit Award, and was recognized as the Greene County Achiever for their educational outreach program. Would you please welcome Robin?
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. As Tom said, I'm Robin Heiss. I'm the Records Manager and Archivist at the Greene County Records Center and Archives. How many of you are familiar with the archives? Okay, great. You guys should be. So just to let you know, we are not the Greene County Historical Society, and we're not the Greene County Room of the Xenia Community Library. We are the county that holds we are the organization that holds the county records dating back to 1803. So what you're looking at right here, this is an image of our reading room. For those of you who have not visited us, we are at 535 Ledbetter Road in Xenia. As Tom said, the old archives literally basically fell down. It took us 3 months to pack everything up from the old archives and bring it to our new location on Ledbetter Road. But we love the new location. If you haven't been there, please come and visit us. So as I said, the Greene County Archives is the repository for housing county records of historical and genealogical value. We currently have records dating back to the founding of the county in 1803. So one of our goals at the Greene County Archives is to ensure the availability and accessibility of the historical and genealogical records to the public. So as Tom said, we did have that old building. The archives was established about 26 years ago. Prior to that, records were stored throughout the county in basements, up in the clock tower, in old closets. But we were fortunate in Greene County that our elected officials understand the importance of funding a records center and archives. In Ohio, obviously, there are 88 counties, but of those 88 counties, only about a dozen of them actually have a full-fledged record center and archives. So we're very fortunate here in Greene County. And I'm not going to read the mission statement. So as you can see, in Greene County here, our records are now stored in appropriate environmental conditions. We maintain and monitor both the temperature and the humidity and the lighting within our establishment. Greene County historical records are now housed in standard size boxes on steel shelves, as you can see here. And just to give you some perspective of our size, our facility is just over 5,000 square feet. We have 3 full-time employees, 1 part-time employee, and we're all responsible for the long-term preservation of approximately 2,500 boxes of records, 3,500 books, 1,500 maps, 11,000 rolls of microfilm, and approximately 20,000 jackets of microfiche. And this is new this year, is over 540,000 electronic records. Times are a-changing. We also assist both external and internal customers with reference work, as well as provide outreach activities to the local community. So today what I'm going to do is give you just an overview of the archives. I will try to tell a story for Tom. If you want me to come back in the future, I would be more than happy to share some of the secrets that we have unraveled in the archives because they are fun. A lot of people think that in the county records, they're just old county records, they're dull and boring. But once you get in them and start doing the research, what I love the most about the archives is the research and the stories behind the people. The people are no longer with us, but they left a story, and that's what we love to do. Like I said, today you're just mostly going to get an overview, but I'll try to come up with a little story before I leave. So, as I said, we make a concerted effort in the archives to get the word out about who we are and what we do. So we want to make sure that the public is aware that Greene County has its own repository for housing the county's records, as well as what types of records we actually have that are open and available to the public. So one of the ways that we do this is by updating our website, which you'll see here. And actually it's been updated since just this last week, but you're going to see there on the far side, we have guidelines on how to use our records. We have a link to the collections that tells you what type of records we hold. We do have a collection of engineers maps that are available online. We have links to family resources, educator resources. As Tom mentioned, we've won several awards for our educational outreach program. So what we do with those is we take the primary resources that we hold and we turn those into educational programs for the kids, starting in the 4th grade up through high school. And what we want them to do is get used to understand what primary sources are, how they can be used in research, and then what they tell you about the past history of Greene County. So we have links out there for both the educator resources as well as the student resources. We have a coloring book out there on the history of Greene County, crossword puzzles, things like that. So if you're interested, please go visit our website and check those out. There's a lot of fun information out there. And again, we provide a lot of indexes online so that folks, before they even come into the archives, if they have an idea of what they're looking for, we get a lot of folks doing genealogical research. If they have an idea of what they're looking for, they can go out and look at the indexes to see if the name they're searching for is actually there. And we encourage folks to take a look at that. I'm going to be unveiling something to you all today so that the indexes will probably be going away soon, but it's going to be even better here shortly. And here it is. We just put this up this week. It's called Archive Space. Archive staff are working very hard. What this essentially is an online catalog system. So for those of you who visit the library website, you can just type in a subject or a title and it'll pop up whatever they have. This is similar. We're adding records every day. This is taking the place of an old database that we had. And so over 25,000 records were actually migrated over to this new system. So now my staff and I are going through and cleaning it all up. But in saying that, if you want to find something on James Galloway, you'll be able to actually type in James Galloway and up will pop everything that we have on James Galloway. And that's in theory, once it's all done. So we're adding records daily, so check back often. We're pretty excited about this because, again, before we just had indexes that our volunteers would put together. Okay, so again, who are we? As I said, we house the historical records of Greene County. We want to make sure that they're available and open to the public and accessible to the public. We do this on our website, as I mentioned. We have a weekly blog that we put up there. And again, we try to focus on some of those stories that I told you that we find behind the records. And every week there's a new story. We also post something daily on our social media accounts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. And again, we highlight those historical records every day. And I'll talk about some of those here in a little bit. And then we host special events throughout the year. Usually we have an open house in the fall. Sometimes we have one over the summer. Greene County History Week is coming up in June. So look for events that we'll be sponsoring during that. Okay. One of the ways we're going to also start making records accessible, I mentioned that this year we have over 540,000 electronic records. People are now creating, as you're well aware, electronic records. And with the archives, we're used to paper. We take in the paper, we put it on the shelf. But now we have electronic records. So what do you do with electronic records? Because if you think about it, electronic media changes all of the time. If you think back to when you had your old home movies transferred onto a VHS tape, and now how many people have a VCR that they can actually watch that? Most don't. The same stands true with, we get a lot of records that are saved on CDs. Well, our new computers in the county don't even have CD readers. So what are we going to do with those? Because we no longer can access those records. So we had to come up with a means of preserving electronic records that need to be maintained 10 or more years. So again, we've just shifted to a new system. It's called Preservica. What you're seeing here is the homepage for the Greene County Digital Repository. So for those records that are open to the public and have to be maintained long-term, you're going to actually be able to go out here again. You're going to be able to search for it. You're going to be able to pull up the digital images. We have commissioners meeting minutes going back to 1804 that we're starting to put out here. And those are wonderful because some of the early books, they talk about people would come in and actually bring into the commissioners meeting with them a panther or a wolf scalp, and they would get 50 cents for it. And we've had a lot of people, when we put those up on our social media, they knew their family had been in Greene County early, but they didn't own property. So they could never attach them to Greene County really, because there was no record. But when we started putting these up, they were like, oh my gosh, that's my great-great-grandfather. And there's the proof that they really did live here in Greene County because they got 50 cents for a panther scalp. So pretty exciting stuff. So stay tuned for that too. And just an overview, because I'm sure many of you are familiar with special collections like Wright State Special Collections and archives at the library. So I just kind of want to differentiate between a special collections archive and a local government repository. So if you go to Wright State University in their library to special collections, you can walk in and say, I want to see everything you have on the Wright brothers, and they will bring you out boxes and boxes and boxes. If you come into Greene County Archives and you say, I want to see everything on James Galloway, we're going to say, well, what do you want to see? Do you want to see birth records? Do you want to see death records? Do you want to see court records? Do you want to see property records? The difference is in special collections and archives, everything is actually filed according to names. Now in the Greene County Archives, all of our records are organized by the department or the office that's created them. So that's why when we finish this indexing, it's going to be really great, because we might be someday at the point where if you come in and say, give me everything for James Galloway, we might be able to show you that. But it's very different. You have to know specifically what you're looking for. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a quick overview and give you a few stories here and there, tell you what's so cool about these records. We have tax records, again, going back to the beginning of the county. These are great for research purposes. They list the landowners by the township and city. They give you some indication of where the property was. A lot of people come in, they've just bought an old home. They want to know the history of the property. They want to know when the house was built. These tax records are great because they actually tell you when a building was added, or there was a building improvement, maybe an addition added on. Sometimes we see there's an actual note that'll say brick barn added to the property. So these are great for just understanding the history of your property. They also indicate if there was a loss of to the property at some point. So obviously the 74 tornado, there was a cyclone in Jamestown. We'll see fires. It's all listed in there. So again, people are interested in this to get some informal information about the history of their property. Common pleas court records. These are open. These are great. A lot of our stories come from these. And if I come and do the secrets of the Greene County Archives, I feel like after a while I'm talking about our murders in Greene County. But a lot of those details are here, and they're really kind of interesting. Just to throw this out there, one of them I stumbled upon when I was an intern at the archives, and I was actually prepping probate vouchers for microfilming, which means removing staples and getting them in order so that they could be microfilmed. And I had a voucher, which is essentially a receipt for the Guardian case that I was working on. And I turned it over because I had finished with it. I turned it over, and on the back, scribbled in pencil, and I'm paraphrasing, was something like, so-and-so killed so-and-so but he had it coming to him. He didn't mean to do it. I thought, wait a minute, this is a guardianship. What is this all about? So it started us all on this search to find out what was going on. And it turned out it was a case here in Greene County in the 1800s where two men were in a bar. They both had a little too much to drink. One came out, both of them went to a stable to get horses to go home. And in the stable, they got in this big fight. And then the one man turned around and stabbed the other man and he died. Well, the man who stabbed the first man, his trial kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed. And then the Civil War came, so he enlisted. And it actually says in the court record that he was excused because he enlisted to go fight in the Civil War. Then when he came back, he finally had a trial. And somehow he ended up getting it down to just assault and battery, even though he killed the man. But then the irony was, we followed this man for a while. He ended up moving to Clinton County. And the irony is he ended up dying in a very similar situation, but he was on the bad end of the knife at that time. So it's just these wild things. We never did figure out why this note was in a guardianship. We figure maybe it was the same attorney. We don't know, but it's just strange things like that. That's what I mean. They may seem like boring records, but there are stories always hidden in them. This is probably one of my favorite records that we have, Emancipation of Free Blacks. And between 1805 and 1845, if you were Black and settled in a county in Ohio, you had to register with the county and you had to bring a white property owner with you and pay. First, it started out a $50 bond and then it jumped to $500 bond. But these records are amazing because they tell where these individuals came from in the South. Were they born free or were they set free? Oftentimes they were families, so you get all the names of the family members with them. And then as time went by, first they were just very brief. You didn't get a lot of information, but by the end of the book, they're very detailed. And they actually will tell you if somebody has a scar on their left cheek, the color of their eyes, the color of their hair. So you could almost visualize the people. And you think about it because they didn't have driver's license then. So they needed these documents to tell what they looked like. And they're amazing records. So I just absolutely love them. We also have naturalizations. A lot of people think all the naturalizations come from either the East Coast or the West Coast, Ellis Island, but no, we haven't. We actually have naturalizations here in Greene County. Tells what county the person originated in, when they actually arrived to the States, what county they're residing in, and when they became a US citizen. Some of them, we're very fortunate, some of them actually have the individual's photographs attached to them. So that's just a gold mine if you're doing genealogical research. They're great, great records. Engineer maps. This is probably another one of my favorites, especially these old ones like you see here. This is a map of the first ward of Xenia. They include the property owners' names. You get a sketch of the land parcel. You can see names of neighbors. You see the names, obviously, of streets, the railroads, the rivers. And then there's often notations of buildings on the property. So I've seen some that'll say milk house or barn or just various things. We actually have an engineer map, a surveyor's map that is, it was used as evidence in a court case, again, for a murder. And it actually shows, here's where the body was found, here's where the gun was found, there's an orchard over here, here's the person's house, here's the milk house, here's a trail to who we think killed him. So they're just amazing, amazing documents. As I said, surveyor records. What you see here is actually a photograph of a field book that we have for George Washington Galloway, one of our early surveyors. And we have about 34 of his field books. And you think a field book, it's not going to be that exciting. It's just going to be a bunch of measurements when they went out and laid the roads and everything. But Washington Galloway went a little bit further, and he would talk about what was going on in his family. He would talk about if somebody was born or somebody died. And this was before there were birth or death records in Ohio. So it's really amazing because that's the only proof we have of this actual birth or death. He also has one whole field book that's nothing but recipes. So he has a recipe for spruce beer in there. He has recipes for varnish and various things. So, and these are all things we post from time to time on our Facebook page. Again, you think boring old records, but no. Again, we have the early birth and death records. So Ohio didn't begin recording births and deaths until 1869, But even then, a lot of them didn't get recorded because often what would happen is somebody in a village would come once a month into town and record them if they were told about it. So we've got a lot that weren't recorded. The birth and death records, it's not a certificate like you think of for today. It's actually just a book with the names of parents, the location of the birth, the name of the child or the person who died, if they know it, the cause of death, the age and time of death. And just an FYI, birth and death records after 1908 are held at the Greene County Public Health Department. Okay, marriages. Obviously, marriages are a big one, especially now with the new driver's license requirements. We get a lot of folks having to come in and get their marriage records so they can renew their driver's license. We have the records from 1803 to 2012. And again, if you're doing genealogical research, a lot of folks want to see these marriage records because they're looking for the parents' names in order to try to trace back that family history. But just an FYI, again, the early marriage records, they don't include the names of the bride and groom's parents. I mean, if you're lucky and the female or the male was 16, 15, you had to have a parent sign off, you might get a signature if you can read it. But all it includes is the name of the bride, the name of the groom, and the name of whoever married them. That's all that's there, and that they were married on this particular day. Then the marriage record, again, this is a tip if you're doing your own family history. The marriage record is usually found in the county which the bride resided, not where you it's where you got the license, which usually is in that county where the bride resided. A lot of folks think that it's where you got married, but it's where you actually got the license. Another fun record that we hold are wills and estate cases. They provide the names and relationships of family members. You can get insight into property ownership. The early ones have these great inventories of the property. And you can really get a feel for, was this person a farmer, just based on what's listed on the inventory, or if they were, sometimes we see faculty at some of the local colleges, you can see they have a lot of books, a lot of bookshelves, things like that. So they're really great. Sometimes these can give you some insight into some family disputes, issues. We often see where so-and-so gave so-and-so $1, and you wonder what was going on there. So it can give you some insight into your family history. Sometimes you see where a family heirloom has been passed down, and they'll actually mention it in the will, where it came from, who it belonged to. So again, if you're doing that family history, that gives you more insight. Okay. So other records that we have, as I mentioned, we have commissioners' records, the minutes from the meetings. I told you how fun those can be. We also have deed and land records. We have guardianship records. As I mentioned, that's where we found out about a murder. We have the old register for the old children's home, the old county home register, mortgage records, and road records. And all of these records are open to the public. And just another thing, Tom, I was thinking, you asked me what the funnest thing recently we found, and I couldn't think of it at the time. I have thought about it. This last summer when Greenwood Manor closed, we received loads and loads of boxes from them, probably close to 500 boxes. So we were going through boxes, and one of them was just marked newspaper clippings and photographs, and we were looking through it. And I pulled out a file and started going through it. And all of a sudden there's an envelope marked that came from the old infirmary building, was found in safe, and it was sealed. So I opened it up, and inside the envelope were $3 bills. One was from 1861, I believe. One was from 1890, and the other was from 1911, I think. And the first and the last, they were large dollar bills, not like the size of a dollar bill today. They were, after some research, they were called greenbacks, apparently. And the 1861, that was the first dollar bill ever issued. And the last one was the last of the large greenbacks that was ever printed. So we were pretty excited because we didn't think there was anything except some photos of Greenwood Manor. But here, lo and behold, somebody back in the old infirmary building must have paid with these, or I don't know. We don't know the story behind them, but somebody saw them, thought they were important, put them in an envelope, stuffed them in the safe, and that envelope had been sealed since then. The old infirmary's been gone since 82 maybe, or 79, somewhere in there. So that's been in an envelope for quite a while. So it's kind of fun to find that. So I'm open for questions. Sorry I didn't have lots of stories, but if you want the stories, I'll come back.
Yeah, thanks for coming today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Super interesting, didn't realize what you guys do. But out of curiosity, obviously with murder ones, I'm sure you have a lot of people that are probably interested in that locally. Do you guys do something with that, like come up with a game night or something to
Every October, we have a series that we put out. It started off probably 5 years ago. And we titled it Spooky Tales from the Archives. And we started out like 5 years ago because there had been in the 1940s a man that used to write for the Yellow Springs News. His name was Harold Igo. And he would write ghost stories. He apparently went around Greene County and talked to people and said, I want to hear your ghost stories. So they would tell him stories and then he would write about them. Well, that most of them revolved obviously around murders in the area. So we started out with them because at least 3 of them pertain to 3 of the murder cases we knew about. So what we started doing was we would tell the ghost story as he would tell it. And then we would turn around and say, here are the records and here's the real story of what really happened. And some of them, we noticed that he combined several different murder cases into one ghost story. So we kind of just get the real facts out about those stories based on the records. So we do that every October. So look for that in October. We do not the murder cases necessarily, but like I said, a lot of the other records that we have, if we find stories, they end up in our educational outreach program. So we've been lucky and fortunate enough to find 2 different time capsules. So we've turned that into an educational outreach program as well to talk about the importance of time capsules and why you would want to put one together and what you would put in one. So we do stuff like that, again, trying to show how our records really are important. Because like I said, a lot of people just think, oh, they're old records. Who cares about them? They're old and boring. But there's really a lot of fun stuff in there when you dig into them. So, yes.
What percentage of your records are available online?
Right now, a very small percentage. I'm going to say maybe 2%, if that. In saying that, we, like I said, every day, we are working hard trying to get both that catalog up plus the digital records up. So our imaging department is located in our recorder's office and we keep them pretty busy, sending them all of our records, trying to get them imaged, and then they send them back to us and then we try to get them up there. So we're hopeful by the end of this year, we'll be closer to maybe 10%. But if you think about it, the records that we actually maintain in the archives is really only about 4% of the total records created in the whole county, if you think about that. And we have a lot of records. So that tells you a lot. That tells you how much is created on a daily basis. So.
How much redundancy is there between you and the Green Room and the Historical Society?
The Greene County Room, they have the secondary sources. They might have some microfilm of our primary sources, but we hold the original record from the county. The Historical Society primarily has the artifacts and a lot of the photographs of the history. The only artifacts that we might have would be artifacts that came from the old infirmary, Greenwood Manor, some of the different departments. If somebody finds it in their basement and they say, oh, this belonged to the treasurer's office, we'll take it. We're happy to do that, but all of our history revolves around the county offices and departments. Whereas the Greene County Historical Society obviously is broader to the entire county. And then the same with the Greene County Room. Theirs is broader, plus they have mostly secondary resources. I think I saw, yes.
I don't know if you're familiar with Dave Nolan.
Yes.
He did something cool I thought you might like. I'm happy to show you afterwards. Over the winter, he took the land surveys from the 1800s from the Great Miami to the Little Miami River. So it spans a good chunk of Greene County, but a little Montgomery County, a little Clark County. And he likes ArcGIS. And so then he imported them all into ArcGIS. And so you can like zoom in and you can see what the land was supposed to be in any one spot.
Oh, nice.
Like, I can like zoom into like where my property is now. And I know the back half of my property was a Messick Prairie, and the front half was an Oak Savannah. And so he did this huge giant map using all the like survey data. And it's a really neat resource he created, taking what was probably just paper records from the 1800s and making it a modern ArcGIS file. So
well, that's great. Yeah, he's a regular at the archives.
that makes sense.
Yeah, we see him all the time. Yes.
I might miss this. So you're obviously a government entity. So Beavercreek Historical Society, how does that work? Are they just a privately?
They're just a private nonprofit generally, and they have a lot of volunteers that help them. We actually are, the Greene County Archives is under the county commissioners. So we're a local government repository here in Ohio. And as I mentioned early on, there's only 12 of those in the state. So we're pretty fortunate to have one here in Greene County. A lot of times, and those records end up in basements of courthouses. And I get that because the courts are busy on a daily basis and are dealing with the modern records. So, but we are so fortunate that we have a record center and archives here in Greene County.
Do you know what number Greene County is for as far as when Ohio was established? How many counties there were?
That's a good question. You're gonna stump me on that one. One of the, what was that? We're one of the earlier ones, but there were several before us. Maybe, because I know originally Greene County went clear up to Lake Erie.
Right.
Yeah. So everything north of us obviously came after us, but I mean, yes.
I seem to, someplace in the back of my mind, that's something that a bunch of old stuff went to Wright State.
You're right. A lot of what's now in the archives, before there was an archives, the commissioner sent it to Wright State, Special Collections and Archives. At the time, Wright State was one of several local government repositories, so that government entities, if they had their records and they wanted to get, I don't want to say get rid of them, but they didn't want to keep them on site. They wanted to put them somewhere and they knew someone would take care of them. Wright State was one of those repositories. University of Cincinnati is another one. Bowling Green, I think, is one. So then when in 1996, when the commissioners established the archives, the archivist at the time, Jillian Hill, she went to Wright State, and then all of those records were then transferred back to the county. So you're absolutely right. Yes. Yes.
Just a footnote, when I was an intern at Montgomery County, I can remember them paying 25 cents for crow feet and seeing people bringing it in.
Oh, wow. 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 Yeah, I love those commissioner journals. It scares me to think there are panthers running around Greene County, but apparently there were. So, yes.
So out of curiosity, so we're about to their 5th year, so we're not a long organization, but how does that work as far as like we wanted to send you stuff to archive for us, or does that work? Like
We only take the county records. So you would want to contact either the Greene County Room or the Greene County Historical Society, or even the state archives, depending on, where you wanted to put it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Is either your entity, or do you know of others, do they have a partnership with Ancestry.com or any of those private sites? Just because you can find amazing things.
Yes, you can. We do not have a partnership with them per se. We did have probably, let's say 2018, we had Family Search come and they actually set up cameras and they went through and imaged a large number of our records. So if you're familiar with Family Search it's a not-for-profit, it's a free site. You just need to create a login. It's similar to Ancestry, but you don't have to pay for it. A lot of the same records start out on Family Search and then migrate over to Ancestry. But they came and imaged a large number of our records, and he stopped just prior to COVID hitting. And all of those records now are out on Family Search. So we actually have tip sheets on our website on how to go out to Family Search and access them. So there are tax records out there. There are deed and mortgage records out there. Veterans discharges from the Civil War are out there. What else? Marriage records are out there. There's quite a few records out there. But Ancestry is a pay. We use it. We actually have a subscription because we get so many people coming in to get marriage records because of the driver's license requirements now. It's easier for us to type it into Ancestry first to see if it really is in Greene County, and if so, which book is it in? And oftentimes we type it in there and say, oh wait, it's actually in Montgomery County. So we're able to help people a little quicker by using Ancestry. So we actually have a subscription in the archives, but we don't necessarily partner with them. Any other questions?
So
Yeah.
you shared some stories. Which kind of your favorite thing where you like kind of shocked you reading history-wise for Greene County?
I think the first thing, and it's not necessarily history-wise for Greene County, but I think it's the first historical record that shocked me. It was when I was an intern and I was working on those guardianships, and guardianships are not only for children, they can also be for older folks who at the time their family couldn't deal with them anymore, so they sent them to the county infirmary, and then there was a guardianship that took place so somebody could take control of their money. Also for anybody who was declared, and this is the terminology at the time, an imbecile at the time. So one of the first records I was working and prepping for microfilming was a guardianship. And the woman's name was Amanda Taylor, which, before I get into that story, we ended up finding out later she was married to Humphrey Taylor, who was a Civil War veteran, which is a whole other story. So we won't go there right now. See, it's all connected. They're all stories. But Amanda Taylor, the first record, as I was going through it, there was a physician's certificate, because before she could be, committed to the county infirmary, a physician had to sign off on it. And on the physician's certificate, it was asking all kinds of various questions about her health and the health of her parents, and her former occupation and things like that. Well, halfway down, it was asking her former occupation, and she wrote slave. And I had never seen that, and it just kind of shocked me. And then, mother and father's former health issues, don't know they were slaves. And again, I had never seen that in writing. It just shocked me. And again, she came from Kentucky, so it wasn't our history, but I had never seen that written on paper. So it was just something that, kind of blew my mind at the time. So any other questions? Well, I will invite all of you to please come visit us at 535 Ledbetter Road. We'll love to show you around. We'll tell you stories.
So per tradition for Beavercreek Rotary, we always donate a library book under your name. So we'll have you sign it. And because the Greene County Library is part of the county, this could technically be archived.
Go to the Greene County.
But it's called My Life as a Cat.
That's
So,
fitting for me. Thank
yes.
you.
One last thing here, reminder, please sign up for our Founders Day online. Next week, we have Steve Click talking about the Beaver Creek Golf Course. So excited about that. And then after that meeting, we will have a board meeting. So if you'd like to join, you're always welcome. Anything else for we go to the club? Eric?
I will continue annoying you with emails until you sign up for Founders Day.
I love it.
Only the people that haven't signed up will get the annoying emails.
There you go. Let's stand for the pledge. Robin, would you like to lead us?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,